Let's head to the Oregon recruiting trail, and man, we are taking that trail all the way to the top of the mountain today. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. You know, when you are going to the tallest peak, when you've kind of been working and you've been building towards that, you get up at 5 in the morning, you get up at 6 in the morning, you're really ambitious and you start climbing up that mountain. And all of a sudden, you get to those elevations where the air, it gets a little bit thinner. And you got to take those deep breaths, don't you, a little bit, to get that air in your lungs, to shout it all the way from said mountaintop. And that is exactly what and we can do it together, certainly right now. Holy Wallowa, maybe, just maybe, the biggest Holy Wallowa of the 2026 recruiting cycle right now happened yesterday on the Pat McAfee Show, when 5-star edge rusher Anthony "Tank" Jones committed to the Oregon Ducks. He is also the number 4 edge rusher in this class. He is the 4th 5-star, according to the Rivals Industry, to commit to this Oregon program right now. And I say that this probably is the biggest Holy Wallowa of the 2026 cycle, because you look at the rest of these 5-stars, you look like, if, for example, Manny Ahinacho. I mean, that was like the worst kept secret in college football recruiting at that point. Like, for months, Oregon was his leader, and of course, he eventually committed to the Ducks on the Pat McAfee Show. The Ducks are 2 for 3 when it comes to announcements on that program on ESPN. And then you look at Jet Washington. I mean, for about the month or a couple of months beforehand, it certainly seemed like Oregon was the leader there, and they eventually sealed the deal. I mean, Kendra Harrison was committed for a very long time, but you look at the recruitment of Anthony "Tank" Jones, and this is a recruitment that Oregon certainly wasn't leading for that amount of time like they were some of the other 5-stars in this class. Like, as recent as maybe a month ago, maybe like a month and a half ago, Alabama was the leader. I mean, Anthony "Tank" Jones from St. Paul Episcopal High School in Mobile, Alabama. This is a guy that grew up, being a fan of the Crimson Tide. He was a die-hard fan of the University of Alabama. Of course, they were having a ton of success there under Nick Saban. Why wouldn't you be a fan of that football program if you were an in-state kid? But, you know, then we got to like the last couple of weeks, and it still seemed like Alabama, maybe Texas A&M, who was the other finalist in Anthony "Tank" Jones' top 3, but the last 3 to 4 days is when the smoke turned to fire for Oregon. It was the day before he committed when 24/7 Sports issued a crystal ball. This was a late push. I think this was Dan Lanning doing a lot of work behind the scenes for probably the last month of this recruitment, and they sealed the deal. This is huge. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen, because this edge room and what they've been able to do from a recruiting standpoint these last few years, this edge room is quickly becoming one of the best, most talented rooms maybe on this team. And we know that Mateo Uyunglele likely going to go to the NFL this year. I mean, Tatum Tuioti could possibly head there as well. So they needed a high-profile edge player in this class. We know what happened with Richard Wesley. I think they thought they had it for a little bit there for the Sierra Canyon product in Richard Wesley. But then, you know, that stuff, pool, decommitment, that stuff certainly happened, and he committed to Texas and he locked down his recruitment. So there were people throwing around. Hey, I threw it around and said, hey, bold prediction. Oregon's gonna go out and flip Zion Ely. Okay, that was thrown out there, and there were maybe some other options that were thrown out there, but Anthony "Tank" Jones, I think, like, this is the way with a lot of recruitments. When we saw earlier the decommitments, when we saw some of these flips as well, and that's why they call it a cycle. It is a long cycle. It can be a marathon some points. There are hills and there are valleys. But the thing is, when you look at Richard Wesley, this is a kid that reclassified. I mean, the whole family dynamic was kind of a little bit of a headache, wasn't it? And now you've got Anthony "Tank" Jones sitting there, and the staff was able to close in on him and close the deal. Like a lot of recruitments, Oregon may have ended up better. may have ended up with an upgrade. I know Richard Wesley is rated slightly above Anthony Jones right now, but that's kind of the way that I feel about this. This is a huge pickup for the future of this room, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see him eventually get on campus and see what he can do in an Oregon Duck uniform. When you start to watch his film, all right, when you start to break down the player that is Anthony Tank Jones, I write it here: extremely violent and explosive. He looks like he plays pissed off. He looks like he plays angry, and he wants to just drive everybody into the ground. I mean, tremendous burst off the line of scrimmage. He's a pure pass rusher. He is a pure athlete. I mean, they're lining him up on offense, and you kind of see his athleticism when he's able to run some routes and kind of take the ball and create some plays for his high school team there in Alabama. I definitely think that he punches above his weight class with some really good extension, with some really good punch. You know, parts of his tape are showing the explosive, just how he can just flat out beat a guy off the edge and almost be untouched. Okay, so there's that. But then you kind of see some plays where he's punching, he's extending, and he is just driving some of these offensive tackles back into the quarterback. So you see the explosiveness in the lower body, you see the strength in the upper body, and then you see the potential that once he gets into an Oregon strength and conditioning program, that he is going to be able to take his game to an absolutely different level. I can't wait. I mean, we won't see it because practices are closed and Dan Lanning runs a pretty tight ship. But man, being able to see that Nacho versus Tank battle in practice, it's like the T-Rex versus the D-Rex going at it. Just two Goliaths and two mammoths possibly going at it in practice when they get onto campus. But this is a big time get for Dan Lanning, Tosh Lapoy, Tony Tuioti, and this defensive coaching staff right now. I think we're kind of sitting in a situation where I think the staff is going to back off a lot from Zion Ely and possibly pursuing that flip like a lot of people thought they might. I mean, hey, if their coach is gone and if that opportunity presents itself, then maybe they're going to be the Death Star when it comes to edge rushers in this class. But right now, I think this is a big one with Prince Tavazon also in here, and as more of maybe a developmental type of project, a kid that reclassified. And I think you have pretty close to the sure thing and Anthony Tank Jones. Whoo, baby. These pass rushers in Eugene, Oregon are going to get after it. Big time get. Holy Wallawa. Tank Jones is going to be a Duck.